Hey guys, you know, it's late fall, really late fall. The water has really cooled down. We got 62-degree water temperature today. It starts, a lot of times it's going to start out in the upper 50s and low 60s. Those fish are full-fledged fall mode. I mean, they're almost at the tail end, and they're going to start making their way out of those creeks here eventually. But what you want to look for this time of year, especially when that water temperature drops, is look at those creek areas. You know, whether it be, those fish will be in certain areas of those creeks, whether it be the front third, the back third, or the middle third of that creek. And once you figure out the depth that those fish are in those creeks, you can keep and run that to different creeks that you're in. I like to stay shallow. In the fall, you can stay, to me, you can stay from 5 foot up to 6 inches of water. You don't have to fish out deep if you don't like to. I like to fish shallow. I like to put a Falcon Amistad in my hand and go around flipping those isolated stumps and little rocks and find those fish that are more active and staying shallow for me. I like to make a bunch of casts, and especially an isolated cover, and that is what I like to do. In the fall is whenever it's more productive for me. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, some little old finesse jig. Oh, there we go. One thing about the fall, you never know what you're going to pick up and catch them with. You know, it's hard to determine, you know, each day. It's so much changing can happen. Today we got blue skies. A front just pushed through. We got a bunch of rain yesterday. And I love catching them on like a square bill, a booyah XCS, but you have to adapt. And in the fall, adapting is the main thing. I mean, covering water and, you know, having several rods on the deck and just trying to just fish what's in front of you, you know. Got that on the War Eagle finesse jig. Definitely 5 like that in a tournament, you're gonna be doing some good. But I'm gonna show you guys what I do. This is late fall to put more fish in the boat. That's another thing. I pulled up to this stump. A lot of times these fish too in the fall, they've seen anything and everything. So I'm gonna pick up, like I got my booyah XCS square bill. I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna throw it around several different times around this isolated stump. If I don't get a bite, I'm gonna go ahead and sit down because it looks too good to me. It's got to have a fish around it. And I'm gonna make me 3 or 4 flips with a jig around it. Because those fish, they're not always accustomed to only wanting a crankbait or only wanting a jig. So give them something different to look at every now and then. You know, it doesn't take much more time, and it'll help you pick up a few more fish, because it does for me a lot. I mean, because the fish sometimes they're inconsistent in the fall, we like to say, and you just don't know what they're gonna want to eat. So give them something different around those laydowns and those stumps that are up shallow, and it makes a big difference for me. Okay, that's the reason he got missed a couple of times. I made several casts. I mean, I know it's little, but you know, I made several casts at that float, and I mean, it's shallow, but you know, there's actually a couple fish laying around it, and he bit it a couple times. Just got to let them have it just a touch longer sometimes this time of year. As far as bait choice, I keep it very simple in my jigs. I like a little bit of orange in them, a little bit of blue, but primarily green pumpkin. 90% of the time I'm using a spine crawl on the back of my jig. That's something I have a lot of confidence in, and it has a smaller profile, but it still has plenty of action on the legs when it's going down and kicking and stuff like that for those fish to look at as a crawfish. When I'm flipping, I've got a 1/2 ounce finesse jig on. I go ahead and beef up my tackle. I'm throwing 20-pound sunline shooter. My primary Carrot Amistad, that's just always been my go-to rod, especially flipping that shallow cover. I really like this rod with a 1/2 ounce, 3/8 and a 1/2 ounce. Those are my 2 primary weight choices when I'm throwing this rod. And that setup, it just suits me well. It I can really locate this jig where I want to and flip it and put it in those little tight spots where those fish aren't getting as much pressure. Confidence bait in your hand, and that's going to help me catch more fish. Oh, shoot. Well, that was something different. You know, like I said, I've been fishing shallow dock, shallow floats, rocks, laydowns, you know, everything. It's just fall. It's tough sometimes, and that fish there was actually on a little bit deeper dock. He was on the cross beam, something a little bit different. I don't think they get hit as much, those cross beams don't. Those fish they'll just kind of sit there just like a laydown. They'll actually suspend right beside it and use it as an ambush point, and sometimes you throw a chatterbait bite or a spinner bait, or you can flip a jig and kind of swim it over it, and he'll come up and grab it just like he did. So it's always fun. You got to keep an open mind in the fall, that's for sure. Sometimes you can get too caught up with, okay, I'm only doing this, and you can't do that in the fall. Kind of keep an open mind, keep moving around, try something different, keep you a couple different baits in your hands, and you'll eventually get bit. You just got to stay at it and don't quit. Like, it's just one of those things, you got to keep that mind turning and try something different. You know, I pulled out this dock here. It's, 12, 13 feet. It was just something a little bit different. Maybe these fish have actually got pushed off the bank because it's a high pressure day. We got a north wind. Bluebird skies, there's not a single cloud in the sky. So it might have pushed those fish out a little bit deeper instead of being up there real shallow where I want them to be. So that first break, this lake here kind of sets up, I've noticed there's a drop off at about 3 to 4 foot. And then there's another one out in that 8 to 10 foot of water. So I've been kind of more or less on that first drop, but I think I'm going to have to back out and get on that second drop, and maybe that's where those fish have actually pulled out to. Fish somewhere. Oh man. Sometimes you just got to quit being hard-headed. I mean, the conditions are not conducive for a chat or like a moving bait or reaction bait today. It's high pressure, and these fish want something on the bottom or something slow, something to get down in that cover to where they don't have to move far to get it. I mean, they can see perfectly good today, but they want that jig stuck to the bottom. And you just got to do, get out of your own head and just go do what the fish want to do. Pick up a jig, go down the bank, catch them on a jig. If we'd had good wind, some cloud cover, I think the square bill would be 10 to 1 for me, especially because I wouldn't lay it down. But when the conditions are right, you got to slow down, go ahead and pick up that jig.